All right, if we're all getting settled and seated, I'd like to first bring out Sarah Stoll, who is a junior in high school.
Should I go up? Yeah.
And is an activist, an artist herself, and leads a GLI chapter. So let's hear it for Sarah, and she's going to be interviewing Molly Burke. Molly's going to come on up, and when Molly was 4 years old, if you can imagine, she was diagnosed with something called retinitis pigmentosa. And so what that means is you get a little bit of a black spot in the middle, and then your vision is sort of moved to the outside. But that did not stop Molly at all. By the time she was, I think, 5 years old.
5, yeah.
I couldn't even tie my shoes at 5 years old. She was doing public speaking. So Sarah's going to talk to Molly about dealing with adversity and the importance of diversity and other things, and you'll get to hear their inspiring stories.
Thank you.
Give them a hand, everybody.
Awesome. Hi, guys. How are you guys doing? Good? Awesome. So I'm Sarah, and you are?
I'm Molly.
So we are here today to just discuss to you and have a great conversation. So I'd like to start off with, if you don't mind telling your story.
Yeah, I'll just give a brief overview of my story. So when I was 4 years old, as you heard, I was diagnosed with a rare genetic eye disease called retinitis pigmentosa, which essentially causes you to slowly go blind over time. And it led me to losing the majority of my vision when I was 14 years old. And at the time that I lost my vision, you know, I had been quite a popular girl at school, had lots of friends, good social life. But when I went blind, all of that disappeared too. I lost all of my friends. I not only became very isolated, I became tormented by bullies and slipped into a very dark depression. I was dealing with suicidal thoughts, and it was a really, really dark time in my life. But thankfully, I was able to overcome that, and I'm now a motivational speaker and YouTuber. I'm able to share my story every day with hundreds of thousands of people from around the world, and it's really, really empowering, but it's been a long journey to get here. You know, I started public speaking when I was 5 years old, as you heard, but when I went blind, I didn't want to share my story anymore. I didn't want to speak. I didn't want to put myself out in there. I wanted to isolate myself to protect myself. But when I did that, I realized that I wasn't fighting for myself anymore. I had given up, and that was a big part of what let me slip into such a dark place. And that's why I essentially decided to start public speaking again and sharing my story. And it's been an amazing, amazing journey. I've been a full-time speaker, traveling the world for 7 years. I've been doing YouTube for 3.5, and I feel so, so grateful every day for what I do.
That's amazing. Well, thank you for sharing your story. Right? Isn't she awesome? So obviously you're very vocal about your mental health, and that's really important because we don't talk about that enough. Mm-hmm. So why do you think we don't talk about mental health?
You know, I think there's been this big stigma for a long time that it's your fault, that something's wrong with you. But it is no fault. Sometimes you get a cold. Sometimes you break your wrist. Sometimes you get depression. It's just how it works. Yeah. And so for me, I don't feel like our challenges are something we should be ashamed of. I feel like there's something we should be proud of. I have been through a lot. I have been through a lot more than most 24-year-old women have. And that makes me so strong. Mm-hmm. And I'm proud of that. I am proud to sit here and say, look at everything I have been through, and I'm still here because I'm a fighter, and we all are.
That's amazing. So what has been one of your most formative moments, either bad or good, just one of your most formative moments in your life?
You know, I always tell people recovery is a journey. There's no fix-it solution. There's no magic pill or moment that's going to change your life. And I think that's really important to know, is that it's up and down. I think that my life now can look really fantastic, and it is. I'm very lucky. I get to travel the world. I get to work with celebrities. You know, I get to do fun social media stuff and work with cool creators and companies. But that doesn't mean I don't still live with anxiety, and that doesn't mean I don't get stressed or tired, and that doesn't mean I don't feel lonely sometimes. Life is a journey, there's ups and downs, and I've learned that it's really about enjoying the ups and riding out the downs and knowing they're gonna end again. You know, so for me, I can't say that there's like one moment that changed my life. It's a whole lot of moments that all become one.
Yeah, and I think that's so important to talk about because, you know, like there are so many defining moments in people's lives and there's so many crazy experiences we have. I mean, life is just an absolute roller coaster, you know?
Exactly.
So your channel is obviously very popular. You have 750,000 followers?
Yeah.
It's quite impressive. So how do you deal with criticism, like from the public?
Yeah, I mean, it happens. Of course, when you have like 750,000 people watching you, some aren't gonna like you. And that's how the world works. I'm not for everybody, and that's okay, because I love myself. I know who I am. I believe in what I'm trying to do. And so I actually have a little tattoo behind my ear. It's a semicolon tattoo, which if you know what that is, the semicolon tattoo is for mental health advocates, mental health, people who live with mental illness, people who support those who do. So I have that, and as a part of my semicolon, instead of a dot at the top, it's a heart. And I put it behind my ear to remind myself to listen to the love in my life, not the hate. And that's not easy. You can get 100 comments that are like, oh my God, Molly, I love you, you're my biggest inspiration. And then that one person who's like, you're really annoying and obnoxious, like unsubscribe, I would never watch you again. And it's like, that hurts when you read that one comment. I can't say it doesn't, but you have to remember, listen to the love, because that's what matters. And as long as you know who you are, you love yourself, you believe in what you're doing, and in your heart, you know that you're trying to do something for the right reason, that's what matters.
Yeah, I think that's really powerful because a lot of people doubt themselves, you know? Speaking of your tattoos, you want to talk about your tattoos?
Yeah, I have quite a number of them, which is funny because when you look at me, you probably can't really see any of them, except the one on my wrist is probably the most obvious. It says living freely. And to me, this tattoo, I got it 1 year after I moved out on my own. So it meant the literal like living freely as an adult, but it also meant living free of other people's judgments, living free to love who I am, living free to be who I want to be. And I think that's really important because for a long time, I felt very boxed in. I felt, growing up when I was being bullied, I felt like I needed to dress at the cool store, like from the cool stores. And I needed to listen to the music that everyone that was cool was listening to. And I needed to try to emulate the cool girls. But I was so unhappy doing that because it wasn't me. And I was never gonna be happy trying to be somebody else. And it still wasn't working. I still wasn't making friends. And so eventually I got to this point where I'm like, well, if this isn't working, I'm just gonna actually be who I wanna be. And I'm gonna dress at stores that I like, even if they're not cool. And I'm gonna listen to music that I like, even if it's not cool. And when I did that, not only did I love myself more and feel more comfortable and happy because I was being authentic, but the relationships I was able to form were so much more deep. They were so much more real and genuine because people knew who I was instead of this synthetic version of myself. And so that's why I have that, to remind myself to live free, to be who I want to be who I am, to express myself. And then on my ankles, on one I have a maple leaf, and on the other I have a shamrock. I'm an Irish Canadian. I live here in Los Angeles now. I have for 4 months, but I'm an Irish Canadian, and as somebody who travels all over the world, I like to have my roots with me on my roots. And then the only one I haven't talked about yet is my first one that I got actually, which is quite a lot of my back, my lower back. And there's a lot of meaning in this one. So in Braille, which is the language that I read as a blind person, I read Braille with my fingers. So in Braille, it says hope, fight, believe, strength. And those are words that I try to live by. And then it has 2 lotus flowers. And the saying is no mud, no lotus. So the idea is the lotus flower is one of the only flowers in the world that actually has to grow up in really muddy conditions in order to thrive. It has to grow up through a lot of negative stuff in order to become a beautiful flower. And I kind of think of that like many of us. We have to go through a lot of stuff that help us become strong, beautiful women. And so I really identify with that. And one of the lotus flowers is blowing away, representing to let go of my past. And the other flower is blooming, representing embracing my future and everything that's ahead of me. And then above them is a sun, and the sun is actually shining down onto the flower that's blooming. And the sun is because in high school, I had some friends who called me Soleil, which is sun in French. And they told me that like the sun, I'm a light that never goes out. That sometimes I go down, but I always rise again. And I really loved that. So it's to remind me to rise again when I go down. And in the center of the sun is an eye. And the eye is to remind me that no matter how alone I feel, somebody is looking out for me. And then above that is 5 birds flying against the wind. And the 5 birds represent my family, my mom, my dad, my brother, myself, and my guide dog. And it's to remind me that no matter how harsh the winds get, my family and I, we always fly together. And I always have them with me. And the lotus flowers are purple because purple is the last favorite color I ever had when I lost my vision. And so that tattoo has a lot of meaning in it, and it's very special to me. And I've definitely, talking about hate, I've had people be like, that's a really ugly tattoo. I really don't like your tattoo. And I'm like, that's okay, because this is my strength. This is my journey living on me and with me. And I love it because of everything it means. So those are my tattoos, and they all mean a lot to me, and I love them.
Great. So you were talking about being, unapologetic, and that's so hard to do when you're in this world where you have to be, someone else. How do you think that we can be just more unapologetic?
I think when you embrace who you really are, as I said before, when you embrace the person that's living in you already, I think people are like, oh, I'm trying to find myself. I'm like, what? You don't have to find yourself. It's in there. Like, you don't have to find yourself. You just have to let out who's already there. And I think when you let out the person you are, it's so much easier to just be like, well, I'm happy. So it doesn't matter if you like me or not, because this is all I can offer you, is who I am right now. And it feels really good to say that, to just be like, I'm enough for me. So I don't care if I'm enough for you, because I'm enough for me, and the right people will think I'm enough for them too.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's great. If you could go back and give your 12-year-old self some great advice, what would it be?
12-year-old Molly was having a pretty good time. 14-year-old Molly wasn't. So I'm going to give some advice to 14-year-old Molly. So 14-year-old Molly was depressed, suicidal, had no friends, and had just gone blind and lost her entire self. And it was one of the hardest times, and I don't wish it upon anybody. But if I could go back and tell her anything, it's that you're gonna be one damn amazing woman. So keep fighting, don't give up. You're gonna get there, you're gonna love yourself, and when you do, it won't matter who else loves you. And you're gonna do some pretty incredible stuff and find some amazing people along your journey, and it's all gonna be so worth it.
Yeah. Thank you so much, seriously. Like loving yourself is so hard. I know as a teenager, it's so hard to, with all this stuff in social media, not being able to love myself. What are some things that you do to practice self-love?
Well, speaking of social media, I think as somebody who works in social media and shares my life through Instagram and YouTube, I think a lot of people who post on social media post the highlight reel of their life, and they don't post the blooper reel. And I think it's really important to share the highlights. It's really important to celebrate the amazing moments, but it's also really important to share your blooper reel. It's really important to share the moments that you mess up and the moments that aren't going so well. It's really important to share those unfiltered situations because that's life. Perfection is not life. And so I'm really passionate as somebody who I know is a role model. I take that very seriously, that many people around the world look up to me. And so I don't edit my photos. I post when I'm sad. I post when I'm not wearing makeup. because that's real. I don't wear makeup every day. I cry sometimes. I get acne still at 24, you know, and that's real. And so it's really important for me to share an authentic life with my followers and be an authentic role model, because I know when I was struggling, all I needed was somebody being real and honest and vulnerable with me. And I didn't feel like I had that. And so I'm very passionate about being the role model that I needed and I didn't have. But in terms of my own self-love, it's about realizing self-care isn't selfish, and this goes for self-love and for mental health, and keeping myself strong and healthy as somebody who lives with mental illness. And so it's just taking time for myself. You know, I travel a lot. I'm constantly at events and doing interviews and meeting people and networking. And it's important to give myself my own time to read and drink a cup of tea and meditate and do yoga and listen to great music and sit in a hot tub and work out and do things that fuel me, because I am no good to anybody if I am not good to myself. And that goes for everybody. You cannot be the best mother if you are not treating yourself the way you need to. You are not going to be the best friend or the best sister if you're not treating yourself the way you need to. And so it's about realizing it's not selfish to take a moment for yourself and do what you need to do to be your best self.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Say thank you to Molly. Isn't she absolutely amazing?
Thank you.
Absolutely spectacular. So we have time for 2 questions. Raise your hand if you would like to ask.
I answer questions all the time, so no question I probably haven't heard. I'm very comfortable with it.
How old is your dog?
My dog, that's an easy one. My dog is actually going to be 6 on May 2nd. And if you want to see his birthday party, then you can go watch my YouTube channel. It's just my name, Molly Burke, and I am filming his 6th birthday party, and it will be going up on my channel, and I'm very excited about it.
Exciting. Any more questions? I think we have one back there. Yeah.
Were you sad when you got blind?
I was extremely sad when I went blind. Yeah, it was very, very hard. I always say that I had to grieve the loss of the person I was, and I had to learn to accept and find a new person or build a new life. And it was a very difficult journey. It's a very difficult process, but I am who I am today because of it. And I always tell people, you know, blindness isn't all of me, it's a part of me. But the strength I have is because of it. And the same is true for everybody. You are not your challenges, but you are who you are because of them. And so I don't regret it. I would not change a thing. I wouldn't go back and do anything over, because I know I am who I am because of all of it, and I'm proud of who I am now.
Well, thank you so much. Let's clap for Molly.
Thank you all. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day. This is a spectacular event. Thank you guys. Thank you to Maverick Live, who organized it, and for having me here. And kudos to all the other amazing women who have been up on this stage today. I feel very honored. Thank you.
Ladies. Let's hear it for the ladies. Thank you,
Taboo.
girls.